Okay. Chaim asked a good question at the end of the shir. He said, Mi kel kamocha, that's what we're learning. Mi kel kamocha Noseh Avon. We spent a lot of time trying to understand the midah of Mi kel kamocha, but the question Chaim asked, why is it in the lashon of she'ela? Ein kelekenu, ein kadanenu, ein kamashenu, ein kamocha ve'elakim el Hashem, ein kemasecha. It's Mi kel kamocha. Why does, if you're talking about the midah of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, why B'lashon she'ela? That was the question?
Yeah, good question.
Good question, yeah. I'll add on to the question. We say in davening every day, Micha, Moicha, B'Helim Hashem. So also the Lashon of she'ela. What is Yechiel?
No, it's like ma.
Sorry.
Also, we find ma.
Find what?
The Lashon of ma. And it's the Shalom points out that sometimes the ma is a question, sometimes it's ma gadu ma'asecha.
Okay, but me doesn't work there. It's ma.
Me doesn't work that way.
Nachnu ma is special. Ma is, it could be either way. Me is not either way. Here's a question.
Sorry. It could be that the Mikamocha, which is saying davening, is by the Shira. By the Shira, Moshe Avon was trying to encourage Rabbi Israel to answer. So there was a dialogue. But that
Mikamocha before Shemon Esrei?
Yeah, that comes from the Shira. But that one necessarily help us to do Yom Midos. So that explains why the Mikamocha.
I mean, that was like a song back and forth.
Yeah.
On him smears. Yeah.
Okay.
It can also be a rhetorical question.
Can be, but why?
We know the answer.
No, but why? The rest of them are not in rhetoric. Noseh Avon, me Noseh Avon. Like why dafke by Mikel Kamocha it is a rhetorical. Not it could be a rhetorical. It is a. Nobody's expecting an answer. That is the midah of Hashem of Mikel Kamocha. I don't know if I know the answer, but let me just offer a little bit of help here. That specifically, Mikel Kamocha El, Mi Kamocha Be'elim Hashem. So we see El is a lashon chol. El could be a lashon kodesh. Mikel Kamocha, Mi Kamocha Be'elim Hashem. Right? You don't say every time you say El, it's not a kel, ginger El. It's not a shem kodesh be'etzem. What does it mean? It means a huge amount of power. A huge amount of power. The Gemara darshans mi kamocha be'elam Hashem, mi kamocha be'ilmim Hashem. That even that to make yourself, the Goyen explains in the Gemara there, that in order to make the real power is to be able to be quiet when necessary, which is very nogei l'inyanenu. But the alimut and elaim is a very similar term. So what we're talking about here is a comparison, I believe, and therefore it begins to make sense that it's a lashon of question because it's a comparison in our mind of different types of power. There's power. There's people with power, whether it's because of by virtue of their money, their political position, their whatever their situation, their personality, their yichus, their malchus. There are people with a huge amount of power, and when we look at power amongst ourselves and amongst other people, it's very hard. It's very difficult to find someone that has power and doesn't use that power, even if they use it correctly, or use it for good purposes, but doesn't use it and therefore use it to what's the word I'm looking for? To be able to overbear the other person. Overbear. Is that a word? Dominate the other person. So okay, could be it's tov. See, I want to without the please don't be choshesh me for Gaiva because it's not me, it's Tomer Devorah. I don't. But this every year I learn to say for it. Every year, two things happen. I become very humble by what he's asking us to do. I'm humbled by it, but also I understand it better. Even though I've given the shiurim before, like just the whole year of dealing with issues and people and my own issues and crazy things, I get a deeper insight into what we're really talking about. One of the things that So what I'm asking you for now is I don't, because I was like everybody comes in with a lot of Torah here and a lot of Musar and a lot of for a minute just like delete and just try to listen to what he's saying to us without trying to fit it into something that we know already. That's my challenge, and I just want to do that for a second. Let me just give me a moment, okay? I just want to say this, that one of the things I noticed over the last number of months is that almost everything that happens is political. What I mean by that is that, if you ask somebody to talk to so-and-so for you, can you help me out with this thing? So, yeah, he owes me one. It could be a good thing, could you call so-and-so for a donation? So, yeah, well, I gave a donation to his cause, so he has to give a donation to my cause. There are whole families that work on a tit-for-tat basis. I did this for you. Not that it's necessarily spoken. Classy people don't say these things. Unclassy people do, and there's a lot of unclassy people around. But in this country, I find it's very, very boorish. I find it astonishing. Boorish it is. If you don't do this, I'm going to do that. But the point is that even if you're more sophisticated and classy, you don't know which is worse anymore. But everything is about not everything. Not saying everything, but so much of domestic life, business life, political life, religious life. So much of it is what I'm calling political, and political is using your whatever power you have, taking inventory of your strength and your power and your clout, and using that to your benefit, or even to the benefit of somebody else. If you're doing fundraising and you ask a wealthy person to call people, you get further than if you call yourself. Why? Because they have more clout, they business together, like this. So, you got to do those things. That's the way it works. I'm not particularly good at it, as those of you know, right? Not my koach. It's not my koach, but it's not a. There's a lack of emes in it. There's a lack of emes in it, and it's a very difficult thing because all of a sudden you're compromising your emes to be able to accomplish a certain goal. And why isn't it emes? Because there's a certain, it's not merit based. It's not virtue based. It's not deservant based. It's based on
give and take.
Oh, chesed shel emes is emes. Used to be. And, somebody was telling me that not here in Bet Shemesh, but in general in the world, if you're into it, the most political. Somebody was just telling me this, that the most political Jewish entity is not the shul or the mikveh, it's the Chevra Kadisha. It's a very political, because there's a lot of covenant and money in it, and schusim and you can't get into it unless you know this one, unless you know that one. Hello, the whole thing is supposed to be chesed shel emes. What's a hakara over here? So it used to be, yeah. But my point is, I want to be positive, not to try to be negative. The Metzius is, I'm just making an observation, the Metzius is that we're all political animals, and we're all thinking how can I get this done with it, this job, how can I get this? Even I think even our marriages are very political. Everything, if you want something and wife doesn't want something, or vice versa, a political situation ensues. Immediately you have a political situation, and who owes what to who. So it's not based on, it's based on power. So here you have a micha mocha bo'elim Hashem. Have you ever seen, and this is the question that's being posed, have you ever seen a source of power that doesn't use that power to get what they want? Have you ever seen such a thing? What then is the purpose of power? Have you ever seen that? Micha mocha bo'elim Hashem, only Hashem. That when we say mi kel kamocha, the kedusha of kel is such, like we learned yesterday, that the ultimate power, because every single thing we do It has to be energized by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, like this light is being energized by the electricity and controlled by the switch. Shut the switch, no light. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu is holding that switch, and he's holding whatever metaphor you want, the switch to the light, the oxygen mask on your back, whatever, and more. Like there's no thought, there's no movement, and we see HaKadosh Baruch Hu has the power. Says as a Torah from Yeravam and Nevat. You see that he has the power because he was able to, when he wanted to. This is a chiddush apparently. That it's not like he made some kind of a system and he stuck in it. When he wanted to freeze Yeravam's hand, he froze Yeravam's hand. So there's that. So where do you find amongst he who has power? Where do you find in other words, the question is it's not an ein kamocha. That's the answer. But mi kamocha is the Navi charges us to compare the alimut of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to the alimut of every other story. I mean, even in nature, the predator wins. Even from an evolutionary point of view, the predator wins. So we become predators. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu Einoi Kain, and the reason why he's not that way is because his power is not a way to do this and that. He's the powerful unto himself. So what I ended up with by saying yesterday is that the midah of Mikel Kamocha, as the Tomer Devorah explains, it makes sense to me how it's makbil to the midah of Hashem that Hashem told Moshe. And Ani Hashem Kel Racham V'Chanun is the first midah, and Mikel Kamocha is the first midah. What's the midah of Hashem? That it says twice Hashem. Rabbi Yaacov Haber, being Mosey on Rashi, that Ani Hashem Koidem Achet, Ani Hashem Acher Achet means that Ani Hashem Loi Shanisi. That's the pasuk. Ani Hashem Koidem Achet, Ani Hashem Acher Achet, Ani Hashem Loi Shanisi, says the pasuk, meaning that sometimes you have a rachamim, which is a reaction to the situation in front of me. That's good. That's better than no rachamim. There's a nebuch at the door. I'm not going to start figuring out whether he should be working for a living. Shouldn't be working for a living. Whether I get it for, whether he has more money than I do. Right now it's a nebuch. I'm going to help the person. That's good. That's a good thing. But that's not godly. The godly thing is not to react. The godly thing is to be. So the rachamim of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not a reaction. Hashem is not a reaction to the situation at hand. So Hashem's the discussion here, Moshe Rabbeinu and Hashem, is not, Nebuch Israel built an eagle, Nebuch, they went through Mitzrayim, this like, all of those things can be slugged up. Yeah, but they also come from Rabbi Yaacov. They also had experienced so many miracles. But so Hashem's tells Moshe how to argue. Hashem tells Moshe how to argue. Hashem. If they're in trouble, this is the argument. The argument that the Rachmanis of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is be'etzem. It's not a Rachmanis which is reactive to some kind of a situation. Now try that on for size, because what is it means to say that we have to be in essence tov, in essence rachamim. It's very difficult the moment that we have any power. So he's Kel, we're El. We all have our El in us. Michamocha be'elim Hashem. So if you figure out where you have your power, it's not just about not abusing your power. It's about not even using your power. It's about not even using your power. It's about understanding that it's all about doing what's right and doing what's chesedic, and if you help somebody, help somebody. Baruch Hashem, Hashem gave the koach to help. It's such a fine line. It's such a delicate thing, but it's a whole difference in a way of living, of the Mikel Kamocha. And to be mistabik in the Tzelem Elikim, to be a Tzelem Elikim, means that we are be'etzem tov. Hashem, even Kodem Achet. We're be'etzem have the ability to have rachamim, even if it's not being reactive. Because in truth, we shouldn't be reacting to anything. In truth, we should never be reacting. Reacting is wrong. there's a Yadua, so the Igros Chazon Ish, there's a Yadua story about the Bnei Brak that happened, 50 years ago, that a bunch of people, there was some Talmidim of the Panovich, I think it was, there was Talmidim walking, and some rough guys came and started to make fun of them, Haredim, Yeshiva, blah, 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 whatever they did in those days, and one of the Yeshiva Bacher punched this other guy, he just punched him out and they ran away, and it came to the ears of the Chazon Ish. The Chazon Ish said, what did you do? He punched a guy, Yeshiva Bacher punched a guy, like the Chazon Ish didn't understand, Abe says. So he said, this is what he said, this is what I said, and he had to teach him, he gave him a whole, so the Chazon Ish said, no, it's not right, it's not right. So he said, it's not right. So the guy said, well, how should a Ben Torah react to such a situation? Profound question. The Chazon Ish answer is a Ben Torah doesn't react. No, there's no such thing as somebody pushing my buttons and be reacting like I don't have any buttons. My buttons are from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I am what I am. High madrega. It's a high madrega, but it's a higher madrega than getting the fancy new kind of ritzulas on your pillow. This is a very high madrega. It's a madrega of I'm not going to be reactive. I'm just going to do the right thing. And it doesn't mean that it's a midas hadid, because dafka, the right thing, is Hashem is midas harachamim, not the right thing. Well, this is what you deserve, not what you deserve. The rachamim, even the rachamim, is intrinsic to the person. So I just my point is, and again, please forgive me, I'm just cosering for my own. We have to stop being political. Period. There's way too much of that going on. And again, I don't only mean in the political chambers. At home, and shul. You have to stop. It's not you can't lord over another person. You meet people that they have some power, like they don't miss a trick. They don't miss a trick. They use it to the fullest. It's not the derech haTorah. It's not the derech haTorah. The derech haTorah is to do what's right. Imagine society would be such that everybody did what was right. So I'm not a nar. I understand that it doesn't work that way. Sometimes you have to be political. But etzem, it's a chasar and emes, and the only emes is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and then us. We're emes because ultimately this is where we stand. The hakdama sheba hakdamas to the whole Sefer Tomer Devorah is that when you talk about these things, people say like I'm only human, that's like the usual, human is huge. Human is huge. Human is not a tree, you're not an apple, not a monkey. Human is huge, because human means that you're made b'tzelem Elokim. Human means that you're just like the midos of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, at least some midos of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, like right here in this world. It's like I'm only the president of IBM. Human is big. Human is a very big thing. So it's a good thing to remind ourselves that we're only human, or we're human. Because human is the ambassadors of HaKadosh Baruch Hu B'hai Alma. So that's what I wanted to be bavar about. I don't know if it completely answers the question, but it just the perspective.
It's such a pella.
I think it's a pella because you see it nowhere.
And it's more of a pella than all the other midos?
Yes, because I think so. That's we didn't learn all the other midos, so we don't know the answer to that. But it's a pella that you could understand, and that's why the question for it, to sum it up, only by way of comparison. Like why don't we say by any other mita, be kamocha be Noseh Avon Hashem? Like why be kamocha be Elim Hashem? It's only when you're talking about power that we have a question, because it's only by comparison and that you can understand the godless here, and it's huge. It's huge. It's a life changer in everybody's life. Not to be political. Just be. You understand what I mean by political? You understand by like we owe each other. There's a new currency of favors. There's a currency of owing. It's a different.
Where's the cheshbon?
Yeah, where's the cheshbon?
What do we get? How's it going to play out?
Always with the cheshbon. Always with the cheshbon. That's power. That's a currency of power, whatever it is.
the gematria of me is 50, which is the level that we can't reach. Only Hashem is at that level.
Wow, beautiful. Thank you.
So we're saying Hashem.
Like Gil saying.
Yeah.
Me is also Madrega.
Yeah.
Okay. I got to find that in the Zohar or something.
Hashem is one midah. We're saying.
Where? Talks of me?
I don't know if on this. I don't know on this person.
Yeah.
Hashem is one midah. That's what we're saying, because it's nothing
Oh,
to do
so
with
if
the
you
thing.
count, that's what I was saying. Yes, if you count, it's only one midah. It's a midah of rachamim, but the first time you can't. It's like a question. You can't understand the Hashem Kodem Achet. You can't understand the Hashem Achet until you understand the Hashem Kodem Achet. It's a touch of the rachamim.
Because it has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, so it's machlokes Rashi Rav and Tab. But I was saying, if you learn that it's one midah, like you can't understand that if it would just be an independent concept of rachamim. So we know what rachamim is, but once you understand there's rachamim acher achet, that's begala the rachamim acher achet. So it's a different type of rachamim.
It's a rachamim that has nothing to do with the chet.
Right. Nothing to do with the person. Ba'atzim, I have rachamim. I can live in a vacuum. It's rachamim in a vacuum. I can be the only one in the world that have rachamim. I can be the only one in the world that have rachamim. I can be on a desert island that have rachamim. Just my metzias of rachamim. It's a metzias. It's not something that's being pulled from me. But they Torah don't react. If you find yourself reacting, then it's wrong. If something is getting on your nerves, it's wrong. If something is getting you angry, it's wrong. Nothing wrong with getting angry, but it's not that somebody else got me angry. It's avodah zarah. It's avodah zarah because it comes out that something else is controlling me. You know, even if it's a good thing, something else is controlling me, and not Hakadosh Baruch Hu, not the Torah, and not me in my own shlita. That's the. Okay, now let me just. Mikel kamocha Noseh Avon is the next part of the puzzle. Noseh Avon. Noseh Avon, always translated in the English as who is like you, who bears our iniquity. Whenever I read these English things, I look in the Hebrew to see what it means. Bears our iniquity. Mazel tov. Like, so I just want to. It's very, very deep, and it requires also some introduction to understand it. The simple translation of Noseh is to carry. Noseh be'ol im chaver. I guess that's what bears mean. Bears means. Who carries our sin? So the Pashat Pshat, you know, like I learned from, I have to give Ivor Dover B'Shem Imrei. I learned from about 33 years ago from the bank manager of M&T in Western New York, the M&T Bank, because you know, after running an organization for a few years, so we got into a situation then that there was a number of checks that I thought I could cover and couldn't cover, and everything was going to fall apart. So I called the bank manager, and he said to me, "Rabbi, I know who you are. I'll carry you." Oh. I'll carry you. It's the bank expression. So I immediately said, "Oh, Noseh Avon." Noseh Avon. What does it mean on a Pashat Pshat level? What does it mean that he's going to carry me? That we understand that your bank can't do business with people who bounce checks. It doesn't. But we understand you're not kiting checks. You're doing it deliberately. And it's a temporary situation. It's a matzav that you're in. We cherish your business enough. We respect you enough that we'll look at the first 10 years and we'll look at the next 10 years, and for these 2 weeks we'll carry you. That's the business touch of it, and it's actually the vernacular. It's actually the expression which is used. So what does it mean when HaKadosh Baruch Hu bears or carries our iniquity? That he's looking at that there's this idea of sort of a temporary insanity, if you will, which temporary can be for many years, but of a certain insanity that a person gets, pulled into, where they are doing the wrong things. You just get dragged into a place. All of us, some at a very, sort of like a very gilui level, like they're really doing wrong things. Robbing banks. What do they do? But it doesn't not always have the nerve to rob banks. So we do other things So the question is, if when a Kodesh Baruch Hu looks at the Avera, this is part of the Mikel Kamocha Noseh Avon. This is like the godless. The ultimate power is a Kodesh Baruch Hu who can switch us off at any moment. But he's not going to, bounce a check. Sorry, sorry, you messed up. And be really midas adin about it. And you can only be midas adin if you have the power to enact it. And Hashem has the power. But the Noseh Avon is looking at a bigger picture and having a certain amount of respect and faith in the human being and in the Tzelem Elikim and the Elokus of the human being. And by having a certain respect for that Elokus, realizing that this person may come out of this. And then what should I kill him for? Why should I paralyze his hand? Why should I, what if this person, I don't want to be trite because what if it becomes a Baal Tshuva, but I don't even mean like a Baal Tshuva in the folk sense of the word. I mean, what if a person can grow out of this and mature out of this? There is a certain, kind of a temporariness to the fact that a good person, you look, in relationships, again, even husband and wife relationships at home, so sometimes somebody is, one of the spouses is really not acting correctly, but is that doesn't necessarily mean they're bad. They're a bad person. Maybe they're doing a bad thing. So it becomes incumbent upon us to be Noseh Avon. In that sense, to be Noseh Avon. I'm saying Babish Pshat, simple Pshat, before we say anything deep. It's a similar concept to be Dad L'Kav Schus in its true sense of the word. Because being Dad L'Kav Schus, what it really means, you see, the normal way of learning Dad L'Kav Schus is to come up with some kind of an incredible, almost ridiculous story, and say, like the famous story that they like to tell about a person who came to somebody's home and to collect money and I don't have any money, I can't pay my rent, I can't feed my children, I can't, and I said, but I was just to the airport and I saw you in the business class line, what do you, you're such a nebuch, what are you doing in the business class line? So the fellow said, oh, business class line, because there was an old lady who couldn't carry her bags, so I ran over to take her bags. And a beautiful story, very good. How often does that happen? That's not it. Of course you have to be Dad L'Kav Schus. But then there's a deeper level of Dad L'Kav Schus where not just there's some kind of a crazy part of the story that I don't know. Could be, but probably not. Probably not. But there's more to the story that I realize in terms of what's going on in this person's life and this person's mind. And maybe this person, I'm just throwing out, maybe this person, before he goes and makes himself into a shmata to collect money for his family in front of 200 people and goes to them, maybe he just needed that pampering. Maybe somebody paid his ticket and realized this I can do for you, I can give you mileage. I mean, who knows? But maybe it's a certain, inconsistency that the person needed. So that's a deeper thing. When people say things, I just said yesterday, a Rav in Los Angeles told me I was talking to him about a book that he wants to do. He told me such a remarkable story. I don't know which side of but he said to me when the spaceship went up, what was it, the Challenger went up and blew up. Was it Challenger?
Yeah, Challenger.
Yeah, it blew up and all. So one of the people, they had a team of people, a scientist, a chemist, so one of the people was supposed to be a science teacher, so a high school science teacher. They wanted a high school science teacher. So science teachers from all over the world applied for this position, this list, to go up at the Challenger and be the science teacher. So a teacher came to school, and a science teacher, and one of his, this is a principal of Rabbi Yaacov, so a top-notch science teacher, which the kids didn't like, came to school the next day and showed the papers where she applied to be the science teacher on board the Challenger, and but for the grace of God, she was so upset that she didn't get this position as the science teacher on the Challenger, Hashem, Fromm, and all that. Really good science teacher, and she wasn't on the spaceship, and it blew up. So she was telling the kids a story. So one of the kids, in their chutzpah, said, "Too bad you were not. too bad you weren't." Yeah. Too bad they didn't pick you. That would have been a good thing, right? So one of the this fellow was telling me that he's the head of the Bais Yaakov. So he was telling me that what's the normal thing? The kid to the principal, throw the kid out of class, take the kid to the and instead the teacher, I guess a good science teacher, good teacher, just thought about it for a second, like such an insult, really, this is such an insult. So she said to the kid, girl, why'd you say that? So she said, quickly, she says, I'm sure that if you would have been on the thing, it wouldn't have blown up. Which was the opposite of what she was thinking. She didn't mean anything by it. So, okay, good thing I didn't, before I smacked her, I got it was like the ultimate compliment that the girl was giving. So, okay, it's like another madrega being down the Kapsel. It's not a ridiculous story, just like, where is this person coming from? But then there's even a deeper part of it, I think the Chazon Ish said that today everybody's a Tinnik Shenishba. So ultimately, down the whole Klal Yisrael Kapsel, the whole Klal Yisrael Kapsel, it's not their fault. It's not just like a halakha. It is a halachic thing. It isn't the Chazon Ish in your day. It's a halachic point in Hilchos Shchita. But what it really is, it's a different way of looking at the whole Klal Yisrael. What do you want from them? Now, he wasn't a Chassidish Rebbe. He wasn't the Kedushas Levi. He wasn't, the Barditchever. He halachically said that I'm looking at a world today, 1949, 1950. Think about everything was going on and everything the Jews went through at that time. And he said that, look, we have to give a different halachic status to the entire Klal Yisrael. By the way, that one little tshuva of the Chazon Ish brought the Kiruv movement into the Litvische world. Without question. One sentence. What do you want from them? And if a person is a Tinnik Shenishba, there's a mitzvah to be pound to him. It's as simple as that. So we're not going not Lubavitchers, nothing. Just it's not. They're Tinnik Shenishba. So that's like understanding, having done this call L'kav Schus. It's not just coming up with some kind of an incredible story. It's a geder of Noseh Avon. Noseh Avon. The geder of Noseh Avon is to be able to see the beginning of it yesterday and be able to see tomorrow and then deal with today. So that's I believe the simple pshat in the pasuk. The Tomer Devorah, which is unto itself very challenging, and this is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu does. If he would look at us for the moment, miyamid lefanecha badim. And I'm to carry it to the human level, if we would live like that, really, of not being Noseh Avon, the possibility of any relationship is almost not there. It's almost nil, because who can then you become a power broker, and you go back to yesterday's Torah. It's almost nil, the possibility of a relationship, if you can't see an entire picture and understand that, okay, al tefayes adam b'shas kaisei. Al tefayes adam b'shas kaisei. Person's angry right now. It's temporary insanity. Don't even try. Just have patience. Work. Gamzu yavar. Chakei ad sheyavar haza'am. Doesn't mean a person has to be abused. It doesn't mean a person has to al tefayes. Don't even try. Understand it for what it is. Like a person is. It's not just a person. Maybe they're drunk. Maybe they're on drugs. Maybe they're having a bad chemical day or something. But it's a yeah.
I just feel like it's very similar to what we were saying yesterday about Neilab, that he's accepting everything because he trusts. I mean, We were drawing the distinction.
It's not very similar, it's the same thing. In other words,
So
mi
what
kel
is the
kamocha,
sound?
and now we're defining it. Klal u'prat u'kol. So the
what's
kel
the
kamocha is that he has the power. He has the power to cut off. Why? How is he not? That's why I'm saying it all comes back to yesterday. How is he not using his power? Mi kamocha be'elim Hashem, mi kel kamocha. How is he not use? How is he not being political about it? The answer is because Noseh Avon. He's not using his power. He's understanding things with a bigger hekev. So we have a little more detail, if you will. It's a different midah, but it's the same midah. You see the pasuk. It's a explanation, if you will, of the mi kel kamocha.
It's a one meter, 2 meters. And then it gets close to sounding like it's only 1 meter.
Yeah. You know. Again, it's not using your power, but not reacting. Midah 1 is not reacting, but acting. And Noseh Avon is the way you look at another person. Why? In other words, now it's incumbent upon us to define what is the right thing. Once we know that we're not just, it's not the right thing for me to squash you just because I have power and you don't have power. But now the second question is, how do I define the right thing? How do I know what's the right thing? So if you look at Hashem in this way and emulate that, the answer is to be Noseh Avon. And Noseh Avon, in my view, is very similar to being down the kapskus. You know something. Just if I could just a small tangent. Something that I've had for years, like the people misunderstand. Rav and Kotler Zeichet Tzadik Levracha, who I'm in almost no way a Talmud of, and on some levels, like found it very difficult to understand many of the shitas that he had. In molding, which he did very nicely, the Torah jury of the United States of America. But one of the things that he was against was being a rabbi. And because he was, it was don't be a rabbi. Be a Rosh Yeshiva, be a Rosh Kollel. So, so what happened was that the monopoly, if you will, on the rabbinate was, became in YU. Not a bad thing, but it would be a better thing if there was a plethora. I mean, imagine if 1,000, Talmidei Chacham from Lakewood would be Rabbanim all over the United States and all over the world. So it would be like, I don't know, it would be also mostly something, right? But what it became, which always bothered me, it became a kind of a split, like the Rosh Yeshivas by and large are Lakewood graduates, and the rabbis are YU graduates, or maybe Tarvadas, that type of a thing. I'm just not making a clout. But if you're ma'ayid into, I once had a conversation with Rabbi Yeruch Bolshin, grandson, or Baron Kotler, grandson-in-law. When you're ma'ayid into what he said, again, I'm Mian Imani, I'm just being a sociologist here. But what he said was that it's all wrong. The distribution of power is all wrong in the American rabbinate. He came from Europe, and he said the whole thing is wrong because instead of the Rav, as supposedly it was in Europe, leading the Kehillah is really leading the Rav because they're paying them what they consider to be ridiculously huge amounts of money. They feel it's their responsibility. By the way, they're not wrong. I don't think they're wrong. They feel it's their responsibility to have meetings and discuss every moment of the rabbi's life. And is he doing this? And he's not doing this? And how many times did he pay a shiva call? And how many times? So even though many of the things that the Balabatim say are probably correct, and you could even argue that it keeps the rabbi straight, if you will. And we know many rabbis are not straight, but the concept of the switching of power was something that he said you can't build Torah with that type of a thing. You can't build Torah, if the people, in other words, the rabbi is supposed to be telling the Torah, theoretically, I guess the rabbi is supposed to be telling the people what to do. People are supposed to be telling the rabbi what to do. Just on a personal level. When this clicked in my mind, I left the United States for having it like that. I saw it, and I had probably like one of the nicest group of people that could possibly be, but there's nothing close with everybody was that. But there's something wrong with that structure. And what Rabarn, that's all meant. I mean, I would, Yaakov would say there's other answers to change it Gufa, but what he saw was a much bigger cook than everybody else saw, in the sense that there's something wrong with all. If you're a Rosh Yeshiva, so it's your yeshiva. You're doing you're teaching the way you think it should be taught. You know, if you're a Hasidic Rebbe, you're a Hasidic Rebbe. So that makes sense also. You know, but you know, where have we ever found this kind of like bottom up leadership model? So why am I saying this? I'm saying this because like power is a very scary thing. That when you take it even on a macro level, the use and therefore abuse of power, and almost any use of power is an abuse of power. The use of power is really switching around the dynamic which does not deserve to be switched around, or should not be switched around. And that's the Nakuda. So if you carry that, you start with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you look at Klal Yisrael, and you carry that into your own homes with your own children. Yes, you can lord over your children. You're bigger than them. You're stronger than them. You've got the money. You've got the allowance. You've got everything. You know, you've got everything over your children. You cannot feed your children, but that's abuse. It's abuse. Now, it doesn't mean you shouldn't be b'chadach your children. That's it. But the lording over them, the powering over them, is wrong, and that's to be kel kamocha. And then we take it to the next step of Noseh Avon, and the Noseh Avon is to see the bigger picture. How do you not use the power? The answer is to see the bigger picture of, and try to work on that level. Try to work on a bigger level. So that requires a huge amount of patience. Let's just learn a few lines because it's already time. Anyway, tomorrow, Baruch Hashem, there's no shir bris for my grandson. Everyone's welcome to come at Adat Zion at 9 o'clock. I've got to be there at 8:45, so it's not going to work out. And then Friday we can't, there's no shir, so we're resuming on Sunday. But Noseh Avon, Hareza, just a couple of lines, Hareza Gadol Me HaKoidem. This is even bigger than the first Midah. Sharei Lo Yasa Adam Avon, and he's taking us to almost a completely deeper place than I just went. I get the positive shot. Lo Yasa Adam Avon Shla Yivra Mashchis. Kedisnan Oiver Aver Achas Koinoloi Kategor Achas. What a person does in Aver, they actually create a mashchis, which Hashem on Sunday I will understand. But it's that mashchis. When you say where is that mashchis? Where does he live? The kategor. Now when we think of kategor, when we learn Pirkei Avos, we think of a court in Shamayim, and there's a prosecutor, and there's what's the other guy called? Defendant. Defense attorney. Yeah. And you do an aver, you create a kategor. I would like to just plant this in your mind that the kategor is not up there, the kategor is in here. This is where the kategor is. Barloi mashchis echad, that one does an aver, one creates within themselves a destructive force. That's what it means. That's what the words mean. The mashchis and the kategor is not in Shemayim. The kategor is within us. It means, let me just say this. It means that whenever a person does something which violates what they are, it creates a conflict within. If a good person, kills somebody, creates a conflict. After wars in this country, psychologists take good geschmack of Jewish kids and tell them to kill somebody. One soldier I went to visit at the hospital was crying to me that he had to use his weapon. Self-defense. It's a kategor. Okay, Hashem also, Kach Kozar Hashem, but there's a certain mashchus which is created, and the mashchus is not up there. It's not out of a din, because in din you win. It's a psychological, if you will, spiritual, psycho-spiritual phenomenon where as soon as I do anything wrong, I have violated myself, whether I spoke lashon hara, whether I shot somebody, whether I robbed you, whether I was dishonest, whether I was deceitful. I've done something wrong, and now I've got to contend with that force. Because what happens is, and this is all I want to say now, because it gets very Kabbalistic, if you will, but on a simple level, there's an immediate phenomenon of cognitive dissonance which sets in, where first time it's a conflict. Second time
Gets easier.
it's mutter. Third time becomes a mitzvah. The Gemara doesn't go that far, but I'm good. Because a mitzvah. How do you make peace? How do you make peace with the fact that I just killed somebody, except for to rationalize it in your own mind and then make your mind crazy? So what happens is that when we do something wrong, not only have we done something wrong and it stands on its own, it's its own problem, its own merit. What happens is it begins to create a cancer and a mashchus, within the spirituality and the neshama of a person. And now we got to contend with that. So we haven't yet explained Noseh Avon, but I just want to bring the concept out that an avera affects us beyond the avera. Nasaloi mashchis. Every time a person does an avera, there's no such thing as doing an avera which doesn't create a mashchis. I'm telling you that if nobody's looking and you move some muksa, or you do something, you make the air conditioner higher or lower, you talk lashon hara or whatever, whatever your avera might be, that we all do averas, but whatever your avera might be, there's a mashchis here. All of a sudden I've got to start. The Gemara says that if you see a Talmud Chacham do an avera balayla, lo yiharach rav kivada yoseh tshuva. So the Veld says he definitely wrote a tshuva by the morning. He took care of it.
Baruch Hashem for tshuva.
Yeah, he wrote a tshuva. So there's this mechanism of the mashchus which is much worse than the avera itself. It's much worse than the avera itself. And this is the line 1 of Bais of Noseh Avon. Thank you very much for coming.